10,000 immortals, the elite of the Persian army. So let's talk about the guys who struck fear deeper than Spartans, but whom Hollywood prefers to either lie about or quietly ignore. Yep, we're talking about those Persian immortals. Forget the ninjas in masks from the movie 300 Dogs, so reality was way more fascinating and possibly scarier. These weren't just soldiers. They were the ancient world's special forces, the personal guard of Persian kings and the empire's main striking force, the Achaemenid Empire, the one bigger than many before it, and definitely more formidable than ancient Greece at the time. And though the Spartans bared their teeth at Thermopylae, it was the immortals who eventually found a way around their vaunted defense. But let's take it step by step. The Guard of the King of Kings. How to join the Immortals Club. Picture an empire stretching from India to the Balkans. You need to manage such a beast somehow, and most importantly, protect its borders and the great king himself, the King of Kings. That's why Cyrus the Great, founder of this whole Persian corporation, came up with something special. A unit that would be his shadow, his fist, his final argument. And so the immortals were born. Why immortals? Not because they couldn't be sent to meet their ancestors. Oh, they could, and plenty were. Herodotus, the Greek father of history, and a master storyteller, but he was close to the truth here, noticed one key trick. There were always exactly 10,000 of them. No more, no less. As soon as one fighter dropped out, whether he fell bravely in battle, got sick, or just tripped badly on the march, another stepped right in. To the enemy, it looked downright eerie. You just took one down, and another stands in his place, fresh and full of fight. As if there were no losses. That's where the name stuck, becoming their calling card. The psychological effect was massive. Imagine fighting an army that never shrinks. The enemy's morale melted faster than snow in summer sun. How did you get into this elite club? Oh, it wasn't easy. No help wanted immortals, experience not required ads. The selection was ruthless. Preference went to Persians and Medes from noble families. Why? Loyalty. The king needed not just warriors, but men devoted to the throne, and him personally down to their bones. Who could be more loyal than the aristocracy, whose well-being depended on the empire's stability? Nobility alone wasn't enough, though. They required exceptional combat skills, physical endurance, and bravery bordering on recklessness. Candidates went through grueling training, hand-to-hand combat, spearwork, swordplay, archery. The immortal had to be a universal soldier, ready for any conditions. The whole 10,000-strong force was commanded by a special general, often a relative or close advisor to the king. For example, during Xerxes' Greek campaigns, the immortals were led by Hydarnes, a key figure. Under him, the unit was divided into thousands, creating a clear hierarchy. Being an immortal wasn't just dangerous, it was incredibly prestigious. This was the elite of elites, guys entrusted with the most valuable thing, the life of the King of Kings. And they cherished that status, fighting with extra zeal. They weren't just an army, they were a symbol of the Persian Empire's unbreakable might, gold, scales, and arrows. Now let's break down what these super soldiers looked like. Ditch the black robes and creepy masks from the movies. Archaeological finds like the famous glazed tiles from Darius's palace in Susa, and descriptions from the same Herodotus paint a different picture. Start with armor. The idea that immortals strutted around nearly naked, relying on intimidation? That's a stretch to put it mildly. Herodotus straight up says they wore scale armor. Imagine a jacket or vest covered in thousands of metal scales sewn onto leather or fabric backing. It provided solid protection against arrows and slashing blows without too much restriction. Key for Persian tactics, emphasizing mobility and archery. Xenophon, another Greek historian, describing Cyrus the Great's guard, predecessors to the immortals, mentions even bronze cuirasses and helmets. So they were well protected, though perhaps lighter than Greek hoplites' heavy bronze panoplies. Their heads were topped with a headdress, maybe a tiara, soft cap, or something like a Phrygian cap, sometimes with a metal crest or side guards of scales or chainmail. On their legs, trousers handy for riding and marching, unlike Greeks who preferred going without that wardrobe staple. But the immortals wowed Greeks not just with armor, but with luxury. Herodotus notes they shone with the greatest splendor and wore many golden ornaments. Quintus Curtius Rufus, describing them in Alexander the Great's time, agrees they dazzled with unheard-of luxury and wealth, wearing golden necklaces, gold-embroidered robes, and tunics with sleeves also studded with gems. On ceremonies and at court, they might don richly decorated robes, earrings, and other jewelry. Even their weapons screamed status. Spears were the main close combat tool, not too long, maneuverable. But the key? The counterweight on the spear's butt end. For regular immortals, it was silver, shaped like a pomegranate. For the elite within the elite, the 1,000 best, the commander's personal guard, it was gold. Imagine the sight, 10,000 warriors whose spears gleamed with silver and gold. Besides spears, an immortal's kit included bow and arrows. Persians were archery masters. This was their primary ranged weapon. The Persian bow was simpler than Scythian composites, but powerful enough. The quiver with bronze-tipped arrows was standard. Sword or dagger. A short Achaemenid sword, possibly Scythian-inspired, used in close quarters when spears broke or became useless. Shield. Not the big round Greek hoplon, but a woven spara shield, often rectangular, covered in leather. Lighter, but less protective against heavy spear thrusts. Sometimes smaller like Thracian pelta. These shields could be planted to form a wall, sparabera, from which archers fired. Battle axe, sometimes a sagaris axe, also possibly borrowed from Scythians. Not every immortal carried both sword and axe, likely variants. So we have a well-equipped, scale-armored warrior armed with spear, bow, sword, or axe, glittering with gold and silver. No half-naked savages in masks. These were pros whose gear balanced protection, mobility, and prestige. How the favorites of Xerxes fought. The Persian army wasn't like the Greek phalanx, where everyone stands shoulder to shoulder, bristling with spears. Persians preferred a different approach. Their strength lay in numbers, mobility, and above all, archery. The standard Persian recipe for victory went something like this. Preparation. First, the battlefield was softened with arrows. Thousands of archers, sheltered behind a wall of shield-bearers, sparabera, unleashed clouds of arrows to thin enemy ranks, sow panic, and disrupt formation. Imagine that rain, a relentless hail of shafts crashing down, not the most pleasant prelude to battle. Main assault. Once the enemy was sufficiently tenderized, infantry and cavalry charged. Cavalry, often on the flanks, hit enemy horse or looped behind infantry. Infantry, including immortals, followed up, finishing off survivors. What role did the immortals play? The most crucial. They weren't just elite infantry. They were the commander's Swiss Army knife. Shock troops. With their training, discipline, and high morale, they were thrown at key spots to break defenses, seize positions. Like at Babylon's fall, where their maneuver crushed resistance. Wall of shields and spears. In defense, they held like any elite guard. Constant numbers and quick replacements kept the line intact even under heavy pressure. Versatility. Unlike heavy hoplites, immortals were mobile. They could fight as archers or spearmen up close. This adaptability fit any battlefield twist. Psychological weapon. Their look. Reputation as immortals. Luxurious gear. All intimidated before the clash even started. Of course, the tactic had weaknesses. Against well-armored, disciplined foes like Greek hoplites in tight spaces, where Persian numbers and mobility were nullified and bows less effective, immortals struggled. That's what happened at Thermopylae. Their lighter shields and shorter spears lost to Spartans' heavy shields and long spears in head-on, wall-to-wall clashes. But Persians learned and adapted, and the immortals always had their ace. Immortal status and finding unconventional plays. From Babylon to Thermopylae, the immortals' history is the Achaemenid Empire's conquest saga. They were where the ancient world's fate was decided. Fall of Babylon, 539 BCE. Cyrus the Great used his guards for the decisive assault on the great city. Legend says Persians entered via the dried Euphrates bed, catching defenders off guard during a festival. Immortals led the van. Conquest of Egypt, 525 BCE. Cyrus's son, Cambyses Sekou, led the army, including immortals, to subdue the pharaoh's ancient land. Again, the elite played a pivotal role. Darius' campaigns, c. 520–513 BCE. Under Darius the Great, the empire expanded to India, Punjab, and Sind, and even Europe against Scythians. Immortals joined these distant, grueling ops, enforcing Persian rule on new turf. But the most famous episode? The Battle of Thermopylae, 480 BCE. That one where 300 Spartans, well, plus thousands of other Greeks often forgotten, stood against Xerxes' massive host. What did the Immortals do? At first, the same as other Persian units, futilely stormed the narrow pass. For 2 days, Persians, including Medes and others, tried breaching the Greek shield wall. Herodotus says when Medes were repulsed with heavy losses, Xerxes, in rage, sent his guard, the Immortals under Hydarnes. But they couldn't do it either. Spartans and allies, fighting in the cramped gorge where numbers meant nothing, repelled wave after wave. Immortals, elite as they were, took brutal hits. Their gear and tactics flopped against the phalanx here. Herodotus snarks that Persians realized they had plenty of men, but few warriors, meaning ones who could match hoplites. Seemed like a fiasco for the vaunted guard. But fate or betrayal intervened. Local Ephialtes showed Persians a secret path around the pass. And who did Xerxes send? Right, the Immortals. Hydarnes' detachment snuck around at night. On day 3, Spartans and remaining allies, Thespians, Thebans, were trapped, attacked front and rear. Though Greeks fought to the last, the end was sealed. So yeah, head-on, Immortals didn't beat Spartans. But their flanking maneuver decided the Persian win at Thermopylae. They did what others couldn't, exploited the Greeks' weak spot. So Thermopylae isn't just Spartan valor. It's Persian Immortals' tactical flexibility and grit. After Thermopylae, Immortals kept fighting in Greece. At Plataea, 479 BCE, the Persian army under Mardonius suffered a crushing defeat from united Greeks. Herodotus notes Mardonius pitted his best, including Immortals, minus the 1,000 guarding the king, against Spartans. This time, the phalanx won. The Persian elite was nearly wiped out with their commander, but that wasn't the end. The Immortal unit persisted, guarding Persian kings. Their last big clash, Gaugamela, 331 BCE. Here they faced a newer, fiercer foe, Alexander the Great's army. Alas, neither valor nor tactics stopped the Macedonian phalanx and Alexander's genius. The battle was lost, Darius III fled and was soon killed, and the Achaemenid Empire ended. With it vanished the Immortals, their unique status and organization tied to the fallen dynasty. Thus ended one of antiquity's most famed and fearsome units. They weren't invincible movie monsters, but their real story, of elite warriors loyal to their king, enduring fire and water in great conquests and battles, deserves as much spotlight as their famous foes. They symbolized a great empire's might and order, their mark on history deeper than often thought. Thanks for exploring these ancient mysteries with us. Subscribe now and like this video to dive deeper into lost civilization's secrets.